Hello, everyone, and welcome to this playlist, which is titled Build DeepSeek from Scratch. My name is Dr. Raj Dandekar. I graduated with a Btech in Mechanical Engineering from IIT Madras in 2017, and then I completed my PhD from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Machine Learning, and I graduated in 2022. After that, I returned back to India, and I'm one of the three co founders of Vizuara, whose main mission is to make artificial intelligence accessible to all. The main reason why I'm starting this playlist is, of course, because DeepSeek is what everyone is talking about right now. There are blog posts written about it, there are flashy news headlines about the topic. Everyone seems to have an opinion about DeepSeek. Researchers, engineers, even companies are migrating from OpenAI API calls to DeepSeek API calls. People are just going crazy over how China could have built an open source model which is at par or even better than GPT. However, what I strongly believe is that all engineers, students, researchers, and working professionals are making a very big mistake in this DeepSeek wave. Of course, DeepSeek is a revolutionary moment, but instead of building flashy applications using DeepSeek, what we should instead be focusing on is the foundations, the fundamentals. What we should really try to understand is how did they build DeepSeek from scratch. We should understand the nuts and bolts of how DeepSeek is really built, and we should try to build it ourselves. That is what we should be doing. Behind all the flashy headlines, behind the competition between companies, what we should be doing is understanding the basics of how DeepSeek was built from scratch. That is where the true focus should be. And that's the main purpose of this playlist. Through this playlist, I'm planning to record a massive series of 25, 30, or even more videos in which I will teach you every single building block of the DeepSeek architecture. And by teach, I don't mean just showing you blogs and showing high level things, but we will be coding and deriving the mathematical details of every single aspect. By the end of these video lectures, you will be able to build every single DeepSeek module yourself. You will be able to build the architecture and the modeling aspect also. In this playlist, or in this video rather, I plan to go over three major things. The first thing is I'll take you through the journey of how I try to discover learning material with respect to DeepSeek, and I just couldn't find learning material out there. Either I could find flashy articles or blog posts which are not very deep, and then I was just lost. And then I'll talk to you about my process of understanding the entire journey of building DeepSeek. My second objective with this video is to show you how I have divided the different aspect of how I will make this playlist. And in the final aspect, I will show you what you can achieve after you go through this entire playlist. I'm pretty sure there are not too many engineers in the world right now who can build every single aspect of DeepSeek themselves and understand the mathematics of what's going on beneath. And by mathematics, I mean showing and deriving every single matrix multiplication. So you will be that engineer once you complete this playlist. You will be a very strong, foundationally oriented engineer who can build a DeepSeek model or a DeepSeek architecture. Why wouldn't anyone want to have such an engineer in their organization? I will equip you with this knowledge through this playlist. On the Vizuara channel, we already have a number of playlists on machine learning, deep learning, and building large language models from scratch. I hope you'll thoroughly enjoy this series as well. So let's dive into this video where I'll cover the three aspects which I mentioned. So the first thing I want to get started with is my journey into how I reached this point of wanting to build every single aspect of DeepSeek from scratch. It all started with this DeepSeek R1 release. And at that time, I checked this out and this looked awesome. But very honestly, at that time, so many new models were coming out every single week that I thought this was one such wave which will die out pretty soon. So I saw this release, I checked out their website, but I did not look into it further after that. But then things just started to get pretty crazy after that. So here was a LinkedIn post which was released which said that DeepSeek had erased $2 trillion worth of market cap in US stocks. Companies in the US lost a huge amount of money. And the reason was because China's DeepSeek built a reasoning AI model that rivals OpenAI's best model. And that too, it did it for 1,000th of the cost. And more than that, it was open source. DeepSeek was not just cheaper to build, it was also cheaper to run. So this was more than technical, it was also a political thing, right? So had Silicon Valley lost its AI advantage, DeepSeek raised all of these questions. It was around 27 times cheaper than OpenAI. It was open source and permissively licensed. It's just amazing. It led many countries to act also after that. So, for example, India released a proposal which was a call for building the nation's first foundational model. So, people were suddenly like, if China as a country can do it with few resources compared to the US, why not other countries also? So, this started this debate also. And then I got really curious about this and I started searching a lot about DeepSeek. I always like to build things from scratch. There is this Build LLM from scratch playlist which I released, which has now around 40-45 videos, and it has received a huge amount of interest for people. And I saw this one post where someone had tried to replicate DeepSeek R1. It was just a small tutorial, but this ignited the idea in my mind that why don't I try to build DeepSeek from scratch, or why don't I at least understand how every single module of DeepSeek was built from scratch? And then I started doing a bit of research, right? And I realized that DeepSeek R1 was not the first thing which came out of this company. In January 2024, they had this DeepSeek LLM paper. Then in Jan 2024, again they had DeepSeek Coder. Then in March of 2024, they had a vision language model. In April of 2024, they had DeepSeek Math, which was related to mathematical reasoning in open language models. Then came DeepSeek version 2 in June 2024. Then DeepSeek Coder version 2 in June 2024. Then finally came along DeepSeek version 3. And this really blew everyone's mind because this was the foundational model which ultimately led to this paper called DeepSeek R1, which only came out in January of 2025. So there was 1 year of research, or maybe more than that, to reach to this stage where it finally came into the public limelight. And all of these innovations which happened in these papers, right, all of these papers, I really wanted to dig deeper and I wanted to understand. I knew exactly how LLMs were built from scratch, but DeepSeek was a revolution on top of the foundational LLM models and the architecture which we have traditionally seen. So I wanted to learn everything about it. And naturally, I started searching on YouTube first related to DeepSeek from scratch. Then I could see here's a 20-minute video which is around 1.5 million views. Here is a video which is again 21 minutes and it has huge number of views, but you can see that all of these videos are either 10 minutes or 15 minutes. This is another video which is just 8 minutes. This is not what I was looking for at all. I wanted to know the nuts and bolts of every single piece of how DeepSeek was built and assembled from scratch. It's as if I want to build a sports car all by myself and I'm just being shown a 5-minute version of how a sports car looks like. That's not what I was looking for. I wanted a video which explains the mathematical details, which explains the code from scratch, and which takes me through the building blocks, right? Similar to the way I did for Build LLM from scratch. But I just could not find anything on YouTube. Then I started searching on Google. I could see that several people are building apps using DeepSeek. That is fine. Building apps with something already existing is cool, but I really don't want to do that. I want to be able to build DeepSeek on my own. That's where the real power lies, in my opinion, not in building applications on top of something which already exists. Then I searched on internet again, build DeepSeek from scratch, and I could see several forums, several articles like the ultimate guide to DeepSeek R1. But here again, it already uses DeepSeek R1 and builds apps on top of that. So this was not what I was looking for. There were Reddit posts, but this was again not very useful or impactful at all. So then I decided that this time I need to go my own route, and I need to do my own research. I need to do my own study, and I need to build that first video playlist which teaches DeepSeek fully from scratch. And the last aspect of this playlist will be recreating something like this mini R1. But to get to this stage, we need to explain every single thing in detail. And then I started diving into understanding these papers. I made a huge amount of detailed notes on these papers and all the previous papers which I showed you. I already had the knowledge of standard LLM, so that really helped me in my research. I made notes. In all, I spent about, I would say, the last 3 weeks, I have spent about 10 to 12 hours every day understanding everything about DeepSeek, making notes. And ultimately, I came up with this plan of how to divide the DeepSeek architecture and how to teach it to all of you. So, as you can see, I've divided it into chapters, and I'm also planning to write a book on it. The first is, of course, DeepSeek overview, and you will see that the chapters or the videos will be divided into two parts: architecture and modeling. DeepSeek has a huge number of revolutions in their architecture, and these small things added up to contribute to why DeepSeek is so good, right? They had something called mixture of experts, they had something called multi head latent attention, they implemented quantization, they had something called multi token prediction. All of these things are not easy to understand. If someone just writes a one page report, you cannot build a mixture of experts model from scratch. Multi-head latent attention is a topic on which I have made notes of 50 pages, and only then I have been able to understand it. In fact, I can show you some of these notes which I've made in Canva. If you go to the multi-head latent attention part, you will see that these are the kind of notes which I have made for every single aspect of this. So this is what understanding from scratch means, right? Going down to the matrix multiplication details. And I'll be teaching all of this to you in this course. So that's the architecture aspect of it. The second aspect is the modeling, where we have to learn about reinforcement learning, DPO, PPO, and GRPO, Group Relative Policy Optimization, which is one of their major things which they implemented to create the reinforcement learning pipeline. We have to learn about the modeling aspects step by step, and only after we learn about all of this, then we will truly know how every single element of DeepSeek is assembled from scratch. And towards the end of this playlist, we'll build something like this. As I mentioned, we'll recreate DeepSeek R1, and I'll show you how to run it on GPUs as well. As I mentioned, I'm parallelly working on a book where I'm mentioning or taking down all of these notes, and I'll also plan to make this book public along with the videos, but that will come 1 or 2 months later. And simultaneously, here are the notes, design notes which I've made. I plan to make this course as illustrative as possible, because from blog articles, it's very difficult to understand text. But I think if all of you understand visually, I'll be able to explain concepts in a much better manner. So I've spent a lot of time organizing this. It takes a huge amount of time and effort on part of our entire team. But the end goal is to help you build every single thing here from scratch. So when I show you MLA, I'll multi-head latent attention. I won't just explain the theory. After theory, we'll go into code and build the multi-head latent attention module from scratch, and we'll compare it with the traditional multi-head attention without the latent part. Similarly, we'll do for mixture of experts and all other things here. We'll understand the reinforcement learning methods fully from scratch. So overall, this course you can expect to be around 20 to 25 hours, or it can even be more than that. And I'll try to release lectures as frequently as possible, but it takes time. For every single video, I have to curate notes like these and then put it out there so that all of you can understand. But the reason I made this introductory video is to share the plan of what this lecture series is going to be all about, what you are going to be learning. This is what you are going to be learning. So, what all other people are doing is that they are only focusing on these three parts, right? Which are running DeepSeek models with API calls, building RAG based chatbots with DeepSeek, or building LLM applications with DeepSeek. That's also fine. We'll learn that. But that's probably 5% of the effort. The 95% of the effort will be to teach you these, the architecture and the modeling, because once you know the architecture and modeling, the applications will seem straightforward and easy to you. That way, you'll truly become a strong LLM or a machine learning engineer. So, again, thank you so much, everyone. And I look forward to starting this journey of building DeepSeek from scratch with you. See you.